Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. It's Throwback Thursday, and if you caught my review for Dora and the Lost City of Gold 1, I highly recommend that you check it out. You can do so right there. But I also recommend seeing the movie because it's one of my favorites of the year so far. It surprised me also, but really, really good. But we're catching up on the movies that I've seen since vacation. I'm trying to get the old cinema sit down back on track and up to date. And this next movie, not so much kiddie or, adult fun for kids. This is just straight up adult scary fun. Oh, we talking about a horror movie, and we're talking about Guillermo del Toro, and anytime those words are said in the same sentence, I'm a very happy human being. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat, we're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into scary stories to tell in the dark. Now, this is based off of the books, and I am not familiar. I haven't read them. I knew they existed. When I was growing up, I knew about them, but I never had personally read them. So I can't speak to my own personal viewpoints of the accuracy and adaptation, but I've heard that it's done very, very well. And as a person who doesn't know the stories, the movie is just executed so well. This is a wonderful, IP for Del Toro to kind of get his hands on, and when he cares about something, you can almost guarantee it's going to work out in the end. And how they adapt this movie and the way they use these scary stories to tell in the dark, I thought was just genius. And while Del Toro's not directing here, he's just producing. Andre Overdahl is in the director's chair this time. But what we end up getting here is very similar to a very recent film, Crawl, where Sam Raimi stepped out of the director's chair to do the producing and brought in Alexandra Aja. And the meshing of their styles was just so wonderful. That movie was an absolute gem. Same situation here, man. Even though Del Toro's not directing, he teams up with Overdahl, who most recently did The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And something that Overdahl's just really good at doing in general is pulling that tension of a scene and the build up to that scare or that moment in a scary situation. He's so good at doing that, and that is the thing this movie needs to work. So when you have the monster creation of Mr. Del Toro and two guys who care about this IP working together, you get this wonderful mixture of what we have known to love about the way Del Toro tells a story with the way Andre Overdahl can direct a scary movie, and it's wonderful. I really thought they crushed it in that capacity. And like I said, although I don't know like the details and how accurate or whatnot, I believe it's 7 different stories that they give us in this movie, and the way they kind of contextualize it all together for a movie format. We follow this group of kids that go to this haunted house where there was this family and they had this daughter that was disfigured in some way, and they hid her from the world, named Sarah Bellows, and she had this room that she was locked in all the time that had a wall that kind of faced the outside world, and kids would come up to the wall and she would tell them scary stories, but the scary story she told would come true, and then those kids would disappear. So you get this group of kids to go in and get this book, and then the book starts writing the stories for the group of kids in the movie. And we end up with these 7 stories and 7 monsters and creatures and things that are just so good. It's so good. Like, each individual story will make your hair stand up on its end. The way in which they approach the horror in this movie is again, it's one of these things where I watch so much horror, I don't always jump or get like super scared in my seat per se. But when you can take yourself out of your seat and put yourself in the shoes of the characters, what you're watching unfold and happen to these characters is absolutely terrifying. And these monsters are so scary, but so freaking beautiful. I love the way Del Toro crafts these things. But the grouping of individuals that kind of follow along the story of our main cast, each scary thing is wonderful. And we've seen a bunch of them in the trailers, so I will mention parts of it because some of the scenes in this movie are stellar, and my favorite revolves around the large kind of no shape white pale woman with the dark hair that's in the red halls. The lights of the hallways are red and the one kid is running from him. That was my favorite scene in the whole movie. It's claustrophobic without ever shrinking the room down. The way they attack this sequence, you literally are just like, oh no, 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 and it's wonderful. It's the type of stuff where, like I said, I'm not necessarily jumping, but I'm enjoying it so much. There's another character toward the end of the movie that we see briefly when they're in the jail. That character, I won't say anything about it. Other than I believe they used an actual contortionist. The things that thing does, again, terrifying. And one of my favorite sequences is watching that unfold, because it's toward the climax of the movie, and it's a big chase, and it's wonderful. Like I said, the execution of these things bring in things that we're familiar with in horror and things that we've never seen, and like I said, makes your hair stand up on end, just makes you go and pulls you to the edge of your seat constantly. And all the other stories and monsters that are created in the movie that I won't necessarily jump right onto. But the way they approach them, oh god, like some of it is grotesque. Like it's not like gory, bloody gross, but like there's one sequence that, kind of involves a corpse, and you just sit there and you're like, I've seen the movie twice, and the second time I saw the movie, most of the scares, and specifically this grotesque one that I'm like hinting at, played so much better. But this one, I lit my stomach. I was like, oh god, and there's a lot of stuff like that. Like, it's not bloody gory, but it is gross, man. Like, it'll make you cringe. And when you mix that with the just suspense and horror that's built out in each of these different sequences, wonderful. And like I said, the way they utilize this idea of Sarah Bellows writing these stories allows them to kind of tell these individual stories that would have been taken out of the book, but weave it in a way where it all connects to itself. And then the thing that drives this movie is its characters. The cast here and the group of kids specifically that we're following, Augie Hildebrand, Ramon Morales, Stella Nichols, and Chuck Steinberg, played by Gabriel Rush, Michael Garza, Zoe Margaret Coletti, and Austin Zasher, in that order matched up with their names. You care so much about this group of four. And their chemistry and the way they play on screen is just so good. They drive the whole thing. They make this movie cohesive. They make it all connect because you care about all of these things. And it's like a good page turner, man. You just want to get to the next thing. Like, oh my gosh, where are we going next? Where are we going next? What's going to happen? And you love all of them. That when things are going on, you're like, no, and it again adds to the suspense, adds to the tension. And the performances from this group are really, really great. Standout is Zoe Margaret Coletti, who plays Stella Nichols. She's our main character. She's the one who kind of, they all know the lore, but she tells the story. She's our main point of view most of the movie. And, she's one of these, you can tell kind of like, she's in the outcast group of friends, right? Like her friends, Augie and Chuck, played by Gabriel Rush and Austin Zasher. They're not the popular kids. And she's not the most beautiful girl. She's kind of quirky and nerdy. And she plays all of that perfectly, but then is also such an unbelievably strong central character that, like I said, you just care about her so much and the decisions she makes and how it impacts the people in her world. She just plays it wonderfully. She was the standout for me. But Michael Garza as Ramon Morales, a kid they kind of meet and pull into the story. I loved him and the fear that he brings. That's the thing that Sarah Bellows stories attach themselves to your individual fear. So the fear that he brings is one of my favorite sequences in the movie. And I just like the way he played. You really liked him, and you liked the way that he felt and interacted mostly with Stella, but with the group as a whole, and what he does for them makes you like him so much. And then Gabriel Rush and Austin Zasher are just the perfect, pair to be friends with Stella. Augie and Chuck, you just adore both of them, and they both have wonderful, unique qualities. The humor that they bring to the movie is wonderful, and like I said, the sequences that they're in, they just, oh man, like all the way through this movie, you're just constantly going, wow, or and everything you see is a win, whether it be a single frame and how beautiful it is from, the way it's shot to produced to, the way the creatures are built to, an individual instance just scaring the living daylights out of you, like not necessarily jumping, but at your core. It was so well executed. And then you add in Natalie Ganshorn, who plays Chuck's sister Ruth. She's the one in the trailers that we've seen with the boil on her face. Again, when we talk about gruesome, that sequence is one of the ones where you might like close your eyes. What the content subject matter of it is messed with me real bad. It's gruesome and horrifying. And the way she plays the role is wonderful. And I like how it sets up her character by the end of the movie and things that are going forward. And then you also, you have a real bad kid with Austin Abrams who plays Tommy. He's like the town jerk. And the way he's incorporated in the movie and his scary story unfolds, again, one of those things that's gruesome to watch without it being graphic. It's crazy. But again, he plays a wonderful villain in the movie. Like, you really hate him to his core. And when you have a strong cast like that, and including anybody else that jumps into the movie, mixed with really strong production and directing, you get a gem of a horror movie. And like I said, the way this movie ends, it sets up a fun ride for the characters that we have left at the end of the movie that we could go forward with and maybe resolve some of the things that as fans of the movie we didn't like. It's not that it was wrong or bad in the movie. It's just like things happening. You're like, oh, like why'd that have to happen? Like that type of stuff. Can maybe give us resolution to those types of feelings. And if you had a second movie, you could get even more stories. And it's funny, one of the criticisms I saw about this one is people wanted more scary stories. And it's like, oh man, I think he put like 7, 8, or 9 in, something like that. I think it was 7. They put 7 of these bad boys in. And they're so good. You just want more. So I hope that we get a sequel to Scary Stories. We can continue our, adventure with Stella, Ramon, Augie, Chuck, and Ruth. And we could see more Scary Stories be developed by Overdahl and Del Toro. And, I think they kind of hinted at the fact that they played it that way. So if it did well, they would both love to come back because they are, fans of the book themselves. So like I said, anytime you have creators who are fans of the IP you're dealing with, you're in good hands. And someone who cares so much like Guillermo del Toro about what he makes, this one was just a massive win and a standout cast of mostly unknown actors. It really, really, like I said, I love this cast and I loved how everything came together. And I was scared and I was happy and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun and it was just like a classic good horror movie. So if that's your vibe, go check out Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark if you haven't. If you have, I want you to go hit those comments down below. Keep it spoiler free. But let me know what you were thinking, man. What were your favorite scary stories? Reference maybe the character that was involved so we know what you're talking about without spoiling exactly what the monster is, unless it's something that we've seen in the trailers. But let me know what was working or not working. If you haven't seen it, have we enticed you? I hope we have, because like I said, this one was a wonderful, wonderful creation. But let me know everything you're thinking down below in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man when we talk movies, you gotta hit that subscribe button, and then you gotta hit that little bell that follows so you get alerts and know every time we drop a new video. For the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I am the C-Man, and I am signing off. Peace. Ooh, man, man, some of the stuff in the movie just... Ooh, you need a piece that was, kind of Kramer-esque. Peace! Well, you guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. C-Man's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the C-Man goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.